What's up, Joe? What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Sports 360. And as always, I'm joined by my man, Rob Duran of Rob Duran Sports. And I'm Jeff Fennell. Rob, what's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, what's up, man? I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Better than okay. Better than the Cowboys. I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. My boys took it on the chin against the 49ers in the wild card round over the weekend. But all in all, I thought it was some pretty good football. It wasn't the best. It wasn't like we had 6 games. And quite frankly, I think the Cowboys 49ers was the closest game on the scoreboard because we had a few blowouts.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we had games that came down to the wire, but I'm doing better than they are. But some good football, and I think some better football ahead. Quick thoughts on the weekend before we talk about each one of the games that we saw.
I think if you're a football fan, man, you were happy having pretty much games every single day. If you're a fan of those teams, then you really had fun, especially if your team won. I don't think there were a lot of surprises, I would say, over this weekend. And obviously, we'll get into each game. But yeah, man, NFL playoffs, it's always a fun time.
Yeah, no doubt. And last weekend, as we said, there were 6 games. You were 5-1 in your games. In the games, I was 4-2. So, congrats to you on nearly coming away with a clean sweep. But you also had the misfortune of picking the Cowboys as well to
Yeah.
spoil your perfect record. But yeah, I mean, you know, the first game that it was on tap. I mean, you called it. When you talked about the Bengals beating the Raiders, and you put it right. On Burrow and Chase, and they were difference makers. Jamar Chase again, was doing his thing, and Joe Burrows was doing his, and so you were right on that one. You know, that was just it was just too much of those two.
Yeah, and those two guys, man, I said last week, a dynamic duo. And it's crazy because, they played in college together. They have this chemistry, which is, you don't really see this too often where guys played in college and then end up in the NFL together on the same team. But
Yeah.
man, those two guys, and Joe Burrow has something about him. It's this swag. It's almost what people thought maybe what Baker Mayfield was going to be, or even going back, Johnny Football, what they thought he was going to be. Joe Burrow has that swag, but he backs it up with his play. And it's just, the dude is phenomenal, man. That's a great young quarterback coming up in the league.
I agree. And it's funny you mentioned 2 guys who sort of had the swag, but it was phony swag, I think.
Yeah.
And especially with Johnny Manziel. Baker Mayfield, I think, is probably a better version of Johnny Manziel. But yeah, I think, Burrow has the swag and he has the talent to go along with it, right? And again, Manziel and Baker are talented athletes. You have to be to play at the highest level, right? But even when you get to the highest level, then there's also distinctions. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yes.
you know, you got, you got certain quarterbacks. Yeah, they're better than everybody else, Joe Fan, but they're not Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or so forth. And so I think that, Burrow is like on his way to being the elite, and those other guys are not. And so yeah, the Bengals did what they had to do. The other game that was on Saturday, the Bills and the Patriots, we kind of called that one too, saying that was going to be, something where Josh Allen was just and the Bills were just going to send Belichick and the Patriots home. And that's exactly what happened. It was not a competitive game at all.
No, not even close, man. And I think this is going to be a learning experience for Mac Jones. His first taste of the playoffs, his first season. Not much expectation. I didn't think they would even come close to winning. I didn't think it would be such a blowout, though. But listen, man, Josh Allen. That dude came to play. He was not there to mess around. He wasn't going to let anything stop him. 5 touchdowns, man. That's insane. And
Yeah.
it's not like the
What?
Patriots defense is something to kind of whiff at. Like, that's a legit defense, but man,
Yeah. Yeah. More touchdowns than incompletions. So
insane.
you know he was balling out. So the final score in that one was 47-17. So that one was not close. Another game that wasn't close was Buccaneers Eagles, and I think we both felt that this one would probably be a game that would get away from Philadelphia because just of the disparity in the quarterbacks, right? You have future Hall of Famer Tom Brady, and you have a nice quarterback coming up in terms of Jalen Hurts. But he and you saw it on Sunday. He's he still has some developing to do as far as being able to throw the passes that he needs to throw in order to be a successful NFL quarterback. And the Eagles got here by relying on their running game, and trying to do that was not going to be enough to beat Brady and the Bucks. And we both kind of said that coming in, and that's exactly what happened. They got overmatched.
Yeah, and the score is a lot closer than what the game was because the Eagles scored 15. They're 15 points in the last quarter. But what I do hope is that Jalen Hurts isn't too criticized or looked at or loses his job or anything like that because of this game. You have to look at the matchup. And the Eagles, frankly, they made it to the playoffs, sure. But they weren't really a great team this season. And I think Jalen Hurts, like you said, he still needs to develop. He still needs to kind of get that more of that quarterback knowledge under his belt. So I hope that he gets an opportunity next year to prove, that he's the guy there. But it was going to be impossible to pick against Tom Brady, and especially against this game.
Yeah, yeah, it was. So yeah, so that one wasn't that close. Now, I think the game that most people were looking forward to, and as a Cowboys fan, was the Cowboys 49ers. I picked the Cowboys, but I was on record of saying I didn't like the matchup. I thought San Fran was a tough matchup for them physically, and I think that proved to be the case. I think on the front line they got after Dak, and I thought on the offensive side of the ball they kind of pushed the Cowboys around and gashed them on the ground with Elijah Mitchell and Debo Samuel doing their thing. But I think in addition to that, and the 49ers deserve credit for that, I think the storyline here, one of the major storylines here was just the the poor play of the Cowboys and the undisciplined play. 14 penalties, um, bonehead plays, um, just doing things that didn't make sense when they were trying to trick the 49ers into calling a timeout by keeping their punter on the field, and the 49ers didn't fall for it. And the Cowboys ended up wasting a minute. Now you think about that in a game in which it came down to a couple of seconds before
Yeah,
they spiked the ball and whether the game would have continued or not. And you go back to that play and say, typical Cowboys. I mean, they just shot themselves in the foot. 49ers deserved to win that game, and they did win it 23-17. But the Cowboys came up flat and played some really bad football. And like many people, I wonder exactly what Mike McCarthy does as a coach because he seems clueless when he's on the sideline.
yeah, and that's kind of where I was leading in terms of like the penalties and the team not being disciplined, like you mentioned. I think a lot of that has to fall on coaching. And you wonder if McCarthy is the guy, Yeah, he has a Super Bowl on his resume and all this stuff, but that doesn't win games today. So you wonder if he's going to be the guy moving forward to coach that team. There's talk about maybe Dan Quinn, if they're going to move him up, even though he's interviewing for other jobs that are open around the league. So I don't know, man. It's a lot of question marks with McCarthy from the moment he was hired, and those questions continue today. But this game, man, it was such a toss-up. I almost switched my pick, and I picked the Cowboys to win this game, but I almost switched my pick to the 49ers as we were talking last week about it, that's how unsure I was of this game. But man, I think all fingers should be pointed, and rightfully so, at McCarthy for this one.
Yeah, I think so. I think but I think there's blame to go around or finger
Yeah,
pointing to go around. I don't think Dak Prescott played a good game. I thought he, as he's been doing as he was doing over the past 6, 7 games of the season, some bad throws, missing guys who were open. The offensive line, was leaky, and they couldn't establish a running game. And those are all things we saw over the second half of the season crop up as problems, and you know they couldn't get it solved against a really solid 49ers team. So Cowboys go home, 49ers go on. Steelers and Chiefs. Now this was a game where I said was going to be over at halftime. I wrote it down. I said it was 44-13 was going to be the score. Turned out to be 42-21. So it wasn't as lopsided as I said it might be, but it wasn't a close game.
you were close.
And Kansas City took care of them in what might be the farewell game for Ben Roethlisberger. So that game it was now another blowout.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that this is another game where I felt like the Chiefs kind of just once they took that lead before the half, it was kind of like you knew it was done. I think it was 21-7 by the half. By that time,
Hmm.
you knew that's it. That's game over.
Right.
So Ben Roethlisberger, and we spoke about this a little bit last week. Hall of Fame career, great guy. Should have retired last year. I still don't know how the Steelers even made it there, but yeah, man, this was Chiefs all the way, all the way. And Kelsey had a great game, 5 for 108 with a touchdown. Mahomes another 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. That Chiefs team, they turned it on for the playoffs. So I'm excited to see what they're gonna do for next week.
Right. And that game was 42-21. And then another blowout was Rams over the Cardinals in a game that probably not a lot of people watched, but that one was 34 11 um, over the Cardinals. A team like the Cowboys that played very poorly over the second half. I mean, at one point the Cardinals were like 10-2 or 10-3,
Yeah.
and they lost like 5 out of the last 6, 6 out of the last 7, including the playoff game. So, yeah, they kind of lost their mojo, and they got sent packing. But um, it does set up, a very interesting division round. And as we're talking, a story is just coming over now that Dak Prescott is saying that he deeply regrets and he apologizes for his comments about fans throwing objects at the officials. And I don't know if you saw after the game, when that game ended, when the Cowboys ran the clock out on themselves, and they were mad because, the umpire had to set the ball, and there was, some confusion there, and the Cowboys thought they should be able to get the snap off. Um, and officials, said, nope, this game is over, and fans in Cowboy Stadium were throwing debris as folks were exiting into the tunnel. And Dak thought they were throwing debris at Cowboys players. And he said, "Man, that's unfortunate. They shouldn't do that and whatever." And so they told him, "No, no, no. They were throwing debris at the referees, at the officials." And then Dak said, "Oh, well, credit to them then." And I
Mm-mm.
thought to myself, "That's the wrong thing to say, bro."
Yeah.
Right? And I'm surprised that it took 2 days for him to get to the point where he's issuing an apology, but as I said, the story just came over now that, yeah, he issued an apology for the statement that he made. What are your thoughts about that?
There are times that athletes or humans in general should bite their tongue. That was one of them. I think that he, when he's told that, oh no, they're throwing stuff at the referees, that's when you continue with the statement you just said and say, well, that's unfortunate. They shouldn't be doing that as well. I'm sure somebody got in contact with him, whether it was the league or the Cowboys front office, saying, "Listen, you gotta," or even his PR people, you gotta issue an apology because what you said, it's not going over right. So, um, I guess good for him for issuing the apology. Should have happened sooner. He shouldn't have even said it. Honestly.
What I don't know and what's unclear from the story, and again, it's just coming out as we're speaking, um, is I don't know how he issued the apology. I don't know if he issued a statement. Oh, now I
It
do
looks
see it. He
it
he
looks
did
like
it
it's
by
on Twitter.
Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing that, and again, this is the age we live in, right? Julius Randle does of the Knicks, right? Does his thumbs down. He does his Javi Baez imitation, right? And he does his thumbs down to booing New York fans at Madison Square Garden. And then a couple of days later, when he says, "Dude, somebody tried that already, and it didn't turn out too well. So you may want to." Right?
Yeah.
And then he issues an apology on Instagram. And here Dak now issues an apology on Twitter. And I get it how Instagram and Twitter, right? Everything gets picked up, right? Not only to your followers, but like here, this story's all
Yeah.
over the place. So I get it. Um, you know, but you kind of like people to maybe step back up to the mic, right?
I know.
And say it in person, but
That's
maybe,
unheard of these days.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, so for what that is worth, but the Cowboys kind of gone out of the playoffs, and I think not, they didn't put a good showing on the field, and I think Dak probably because his emotions were raw immediately after
Yeah.
the game, he really didn't help any with that comment, which I thought was just not in keeping with what he's presented himself to be all these years, so it was kinda surprising to hear him say that, but also too, just not something that any athlete should be saying. So, alright, but on to the division round, man. 4 games starting on Saturday, and you ready to put your 5-1 record up, to see if you can improve it, or you gonna try to rest on your laurels? Because 'Cause I'm only 1 game behind you.
No, let's do this.
All right, all right. Let's see if you can hold on if I'm going to catch up. All right, so you want to put the pressure on me to go first? The first game up is Bengals Titans.
Yeah, you take this one. This is a
Okay,
tough one.
okay. It is a tough one, and I've been thinking about this one. I like Tennessee's uh, defense, right? I think it's
Yeah.
tough. I think they hit hard. They picked up that guy from the Houston Texans. I think his name is Zach Cunningham, linebacker, and he's just added like some real aggression to that defense. And I think they're really tough. But I have a rule right now. I'm going to make all of my picks this weekend based on who has the best quarterback. Because I think at this stage, quarterbacks
Mm.
win your games. And so it's only because of that. And I know Derrick Henry might be coming back from the foot injury, and I really like Derrick Henry. I like to see him run, and I love to see him give the stiff arms. That guy
Oh
be
yeah.
flattening guys,
Whew.
you know. So Derrick Henry's my man. Um, Ryan Tannehill is not. And so because of that, I'm going with the best quarterback and I'm going with the Bengals.
I was really hoping you'd go with Tennessee because I want to pick the Bengals. I tell you, man, I'm I'm having a hard time picking against Joe Cool, man. That dude is just too good right now, and he has an it factor right now, and I'm gonna continue to roll with him. And like you said, the Titans defense is pretty darn good. Derrick Henry, if he comes back, he's one of those guys that you might get worried if you see, the first quarter he's not doing his thing, second quarter, but then as the game goes on, that guy heats up, and that's when you'll see those stiff arms all over ESPN and everywhere else. But I got to go with the Bengals, man. I'm liking what Joe Burrow is showing.
Yeah. Okay. So we both picked Cincinnati. in that one. And the last thing I'll say is I just wonder how effective Henry will be given the long layoff.
Yeah.
You know, um, but we'll see how that goes. And that game is the first game up on Saturday at 4:30. It's followed by 49ers Packers at Lambeau Field. Man, this is a good one too because you could see the physical nature of uh, San Francisco playing itself out again in this game, even though Green Bay has a good running game too, so they can mix it up on the ground and get physical on the front line as well. I think Nick Bosa went out. He left the game against the Cowboys in the first half with a concussion. Don't know what his status is for the game. And then their linebacker, Fred Warner,
Yeah.
had an injury and don't know his status. So that obviously is going to be important. And so this one could be exciting. Probably going to be cold as heck in Lambeau Field. But again, on my oversimplified system for this week, I'm going with the best quarterback. There's a part of me that wishes that the 49ers knock Aaron immunized Rodgers out of the playoffs. Um, um, Partly because I don't like man buns and all the rest of that stuff, and he's been wearing those lately. but but I'm going to go with the team with the best quarterback once again, and so I'm picking the Green Bay Packers.
This game is going to be a blowout. Aaron Rodgers is going to throw for 5 touchdowns, and he's going to blow them out. He is going to destroy the 40. And Jimmy G is hurt. He has a sprained thumb. His shoulder hurts now. He's walking into Lambeau Field where it's going to be God knows what temperature. They got no chance. This is my blowout game of the week.
I'm sorry, I'm just writing some stuff down because I have a feeling I'm going to need some evidence next week. So Aaron Rodgers is going to throw for 5 touchdowns.
5 touchdowns.
49ers have no chance.
0.
Oh, and for emphasis, 0. Okay. I just want to get everything down because we'll talk about this one next week. Do you care to pick a score, Nostradamus?
Ooh, what's 5 touchdowns? We'll go
35.
I'll give it the 44-13 you gave the Chiefs and Steelers. I'll give those same numbers.
Okay. All righty then. So we both have Packers and Bengals, but you have gone out extra on the limb of talking about this is no contest. We'll see how it goes. We go to Sunday, Rams and the Buccaneers. Your guy Stafford, he got his first playoff win against the Cardinals. And so, he's riding that wave a little bit. And then, of course, Tom Brady just keeps on doing Tom Brady things. And it should be a good matchup. Who do you like?
Oh, man. Last week I said you'd never pick against Tom Brady. Stafford did exactly what I told them to do. So they listened to me. I said, play game manager. Don't turn the ball over. Don't do anything crazy. And you'll win the game. They listened. They won the game. Oh, I've been good. This is my toss-up game here. I'm going to go with the Rams. I'm going to pick the Rams. I think the defense will make Tom Brady run around, and that man cannot run at all. And I think the Rams defense is going to be the difference maker in this game, and they're going to win it. A close one, but they're going to take it and knock out Tom Brady. I might regret those words, but as a Jets fan, I've regretted those words a lot. But I'm going with the Rams.
That's it. That's an interesting pick. I mean, look, the Rams defensive front, especially with Aaron Donald, and you couple that with Tampa Bay's offensive line being banged up.
Yeah.
Um, it does make it interesting because the Eagles were able to put pressure on Brady and sack him, 3 or 4 times last weekend. And so, that combination up front doesn't bode well. But Brady is so smart and he's so experienced. You can imagine that they're going to be doing a lot of quick passes. You know what I mean? So that he's not, deep in the pocket and waiting for routes to, develop and all the rest of that stuff. You know what I mean? And I think the running game last week was pretty good, and it remains to be seen this week. But again, my simplified formula: I'm going with the best quarterback. Makes it easy. I'm going with Tom Brady, right at home, to beat the Rams and Matthew Stafford. So I'm picking the Buccaneers in that one. And now we get to the last game, probably the best game on paper.
Yeah.
Um, and that is the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Um, who wants to go? You want me to go first on this one? Because this is where the best quarterback thing
Yeah. Tough.
gets a little bit closer. The other games is easy, right? You know what I mean? Who's the best quarterback in those other games? This one's a little bit dicier. I like Josh Allen, man. I like all the things he brings. I like the Bills. And I think the Bills feel they have some unfinished business against Kansas City, being knocked out of the playoffs last year by them and wanting to, avenge that. They beat them this year in the regular season, but that doesn't count.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a part of me that says, you know, I'm going with the Bills to upset them, but I'm picking the Chiefs. And the reason why I'm picking the Chiefs is not because I think Patrick Mahomes is clearly better than Josh Allen, even though if I had to pick between the two, I'm picking Mahomes, primarily because he's won it all before and Josh Allen hasn't yet, right? But I think the bigger reason I'm going to go with Mahomes and the Chiefs is because they're playing in Kansas City. And I think that crowd and that stadium with all that noise, the cold weather, everything else gives Kansas City a little bit more of an edge. So, and they're going to need every edge they can get. I think this is an exciting game. I think this is a close game. This might come down to the last drive of the game, whoever has the ball in their hands. Um, but in a game that has two great quarterbacks, gunslingers, guys who can run with the ball and throw and do all these great things, I'm gonna go with Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Man, this is one of those games that, as an NFL fan or just even a casual fan, you want to sit down and watch from beginning to end because these two guys are gunslingers. These two guys are both big physical type quarterbacks, especially Josh Allen. The dude can run. And I think sometimes that part of his game is overshadowed or not looked at. But I'm gonna go with Buffalo, man. I'm gonna go with we'll call it an upset, but I'm gonna go with Buffalo. I think Josh Allen has something to prove this year. The Bills were questioned a little bit before the playoffs. They were embarrassed with that Patriots game where the Patriots ran it about 416 times against them. And I think that kind of flipped the switch for them in their head, in their mentality. And Josh Allen has something to prove. I'm going to go with the Bills. I'm going with the Bills. Matter of fact, I'm going with the Bills. That's a confident pick.
Okay. So, all right. So you were 5-1 this week. I was 4-2 this week, and with the picks you just made with the Rams and the Bills, you're gonna allow me to go past you. That's what's gonna happen. So thank you very much. Write that down. Okay. All right. So we'll see what happens. But listen, some really good games though, I think, coming up.
Yeah.
And again, I just like the quarterbacks that are playing in these games. You have some up and comers in Burrow and obviously Josh Allen a little bit further along, but he's still looking to make his mark as far as the postseason is concerned. You got Brady, ultimate winner. You got Mahomes, Super Bowl winner. You got Aaron Rodgers, you know, and so we got some real, some intriguing games coming up. So look forward to that. Let's switch gears. Talk about our New York Knickerbockers for a moment. The Knicks right now are a mediocre team, 500. They are currently outside of the play-in tournament because they are the 11th seed in the East. Um, Last year they were the fourth seed, which was a surprise to everybody, probably including the Knicks. Um, but they haven't really been that good this year. They haven't been good at home. They're 11-12 at home. So Madison Square Garden has not given them home court advantage. Um, Julius Randle is still their key guy, but recently they picked up Cam Reddish from the Atlanta Hawks in a trade, and Cam Reddish was a teammate of RJ Barrett at Duke, um, along with a guy who we haven't seen much of lately, with Zion Williamson, who, quite frankly, let's just come out and say it, is on the pathway to becoming one of the bigger busts in the
Yeah.
NBA. I'm gonna say it. I mean, people can talk about all the stuff they want, and oh, he's rehabbing this, that, or the other. I'm telling you, I think he's in danger of becoming one of the biggest busts the NBA has seen, and not because of his talent, but just for his inability to play and get out there and be healthy. Um, but in any event, the Knicks picked up Cam Reddish from the Atlanta Hawks. Real quickly, man, what are your thoughts on the acquisition of Cam?
I think that I'm excited about it. The Knicks didn't really give up much. They gave up Kevin Knox, and I think it was like a protected first pick. I'm excited for the potential. Cam Reddish, he's been injured quite a bit, so he hasn't really found his groove, I think, in the NBA yet. And then he was blocked by a bunch of guys with the Hawks. So he may have a chance, at least we hope, has a chance to kind of live that potential out with the Knicks now. It'll be interesting to see how he's used, especially in Thibodeau's system. He has a thing for not playing the young guys. So we'll see how Reddish fits in, what minutes he's taking, if Obi's going to be going further into the bench or something like that. But I'm interested in seeing how they utilize his versatility throughout the rest of the season. As soon as he comes back from, I think it's an ankle injury now. So as soon as he comes back from that, we'll see, man. I think it's an upgrade over Kevin Knox. Not that Kevin Knox is playing much, but we'll see, man. I'm excited for the trade and the potential that it has.
I'm excited about it too because I think Cam Reddish brings to the Knicks some athleticism that they currently don't have. I think when I look at the Knicks roster of the guys who play most often, I think the most athletic player is Obi Toppin,
Yeah,
followed by Mitchell Robinson. Um, but they don't have athletic guards, um, and they have plotters at the forward spot with Julius Randle and RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett's good, and I think he's showing, some signs of getting better, but he's not a dynamic. He's a big body. He doesn't, he's not quick. You know what I mean? He's or anything like that. He plays good defense, I think, and so he's physical and he's talented in his own ways. But they don't have that explosion, that explosive type player, the slasher. You know what I mean? The guy who
yeah,
seems like he can create his own shot. And I think Cam Reddish, he has that potential, but one of the things is Cam Reddish has always been kind of a tease. You know what I mean? Like you always see the potential, but whether it's injuries or lack of playing time or both, he seems not to be able to put it together and bring all of that great potential to fruition. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if he does that with the Knicks. He's only 22, right? So, you kind of like it and you say, man, if this guy can be what we think he can be, that would make the Knicks a better team. So, yeah, I'm excited to see him get on the court. I think he's gonna have to show Tom Thibodeau that he deserves to be on the court, and that means he's gonna have to practice hard, and you know what I mean,
Yes.
and show that he can be a good teammate. Um, but assuming he does that and he gets on the court, I'm intrigued to see what he does.
Yeah, it's a lot of he's a big what if. He's a big what if guy, and if that what if can turn into what we think, then the Knicks gotta steal in that trade, man.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm hoping for.
yeah, I agree. Um, Real quickly, another point in the Knicks, and you and I were talking about this offline, and that's Julius Randle. Julius Randle has not had anywhere near the season this year as he had last year. Julius Randle was fantastic last year. He was an All Star, and he legitimately had chance of MVP at the Garden. Right? I mean, he was that good last year. Really upped his game in so many ways, in all facets, really, and was the leader of the Knicks team until they got to the playoffs and had to play Atlanta. And Atlanta just effectively took him out of the whole series. Julius has not been playing well this year. He had that infamous thumbs down thing a couple of weeks ago. But here's the thing, Rob. Julius Randle's a nice player, and that's it, man. I
Yeah.
mean, he's not a superstar. And I don't think he's the type of guy who's going to lead any NBA team to the promised land. Can he be part of a team that reaches the promised land? Yes. But the Knicks right now, as currently constructed, are not that team. And, I'm a Knicks fan. I'm glad they're competitive, but they're a long way away, Rob, from even thinking about contending for a championship. And Julius Randle is not the guy that's going to get them there. So, and I don't know. So sometimes when I look at Julius Randle, and I even said he's been disappointing this year, it's based on what he did last year. But I think last year will stand out as an aberration in Julius Randle's career, and that he'll have more years like this year where we'll see more uneven play. Um, that's my take on Mr. Randle. What's your thoughts on him?
I think that last part you said is right on the money. Because if we look at his stats this year compared to the rest of his career, except for last year, it's pretty much right on par with what Julius Randle has been his whole career. So I think what we saw last year was maybe a guy who was rejuvenated, you know, new coach, new system, new everything going on with the Knicks and the culture, and everyone's excited about the Knicks again last year. But yeah, he had a fantastic year. But this year, it's disappointing in the sense of we're comparing it. Like you said, we're comparing it to last year, so it's disappointing. But I think when the Knicks signed Julius Randle out the gate, I thought to myself, I hope he's not the guy they lean on. I hope he's not going to be, this is it. He's our number one, because that means that the Knicks aren't trying to win a championship. I think he's a great player. He's a good complementary piece. Maybe he could be the number two to like a superstar that complements his game, or vice versa, or whatever the case may be. But if he's going to continue to be the number one guy for the Knicks, the number one option, I don't think the Knicks are going to get past the second round of the playoffs. So something needs to happen. I think what we're seeing this year is Julius Randle. This is who he is, and that's it. We're not going to get much more of that. He'll have some nice games, sure. He'll drop 32 one game, grab 16 boards, 8 assists, something like that. Something crazy from time to time. But to expect the guy who's going to consistently drop 25, get almost a triple double every night, that's just not who he is. And I think we're seeing that this year, and it's disappointing as a Knicks fan. Yeah, it's kind of sucks, but this is who he is, and I hope that the Knicks front office realizes this. And I don't know who's out there for the Knicks to be that superstar player, but they need to add more pieces with this team, and not just build around Julius Randle alone.
Yeah, I agree, man. Listen, when the Knicks signed Julius Randle, that was their big free agent signing a couple years ago, and then they followed up by signing, Reggie Bullock, and I think they brought in
Yeah.
Taj Gibson and stuff. And meanwhile, the Nets were signing KD and Kyrie and and all this stuff. I'm like, not even close, guys. You know what I mean?
Nope.
Like, so and again, Julius Randle, talented NBA player, but again, in a league that has superstars galore, um, he's not on that level. And when he's the main guy on your team, then that says a lot about your team. So
Yeah.
the Knicks just have to face that reality and continue to try to build. And maybe Randall becomes, a part of a winning team if some better pieces are around him. So we'll see. The other New York team, the Brooklyn Nets, just can't seem to catch a break with their big three. Last year Kevin Durant was out for a good chunk of it. Kyrie then got hurt in the playoffs. Once Kevin was back, um, um, this year Kyrie was gone for most of the first half of the season because of his unvaccinated status and the New York law and the Nets policy of not having a part-time player. The Nets changed that policy. Kyrie's back to play road games, but not home games. The big three have played in a couple of games together, including one where they blew out a hot Chicago Bulls team that then got blown out again by Golden State. So it just shows you how the NBA is.
Yeah.
But now Kevin Durant is out, right, with a bum knee, and he's out for 4 to 6 weeks potentially. And so the big three aren't going to play again. And it's you're starting to get the feel of, will this ever be an experiment of the Nets big three that never really gets going? Right, because these guys can't seem to get on the court at the same time for any sustained period of time, and we don't know what's going to happen with KD, and when he comes back, and if all goes well, and if Harden and Kyrie remain healthy. But um, I'm not a Nets fan, Rob, but I would like to see what these three superstars could do. I want them to have the opportunity to at least compete for a championship.
Yeah, and I think it'll be good for the NBA, and even as a Knicks fan, I'll say it'll be good for New York to see a New York team fighting for a championship. And I can't recall any team, at least not in recent memory, that had this collection of talent that never really played together. Because you had Oklahoma City when they had KD, Harden, and Westbrook when they were young, but they all played together. They had the potential. Eventually, they broke them up, but they played together. Golden State, the same thing. These guys drafted and played together. The Miami Big Three, they all played together. But I can't think of a collection of talent that never got the chance to fully live it out and play games together. I think they played like 17 games since these three guys got together, and it's I would love to, like you said, I would love to see these three play a full season together, play a full playoff, you know, postseason together, to see what they're all about, to see them compete and knock teams out, blow teams out, or win close games down to the wire, whatever the case may be. But just to be able to see these guys, it'll be great for the NBA, great for the city of New York. It's just unfortunate that we haven't had the chance, for a multitude of reasons, we haven't had the chance to see that come to life yet.
Yeah, and right now with Katie out, we're not going to see it in the immediate future. So, the jury is still out, and the questions still remain on the Nets. And then the last NBA story I just want to touch on real briefly is how bad the Lakers have become. It's at the point now where their head coach Frank Vogel is on, you know, a watch as to whether or not he's going to get fired. Reports are coming out that he's being evaluated game to game. They did beat Utah last night, and some have said that if they did not win that game, he probably would have been fired. That's a bad situation for any coach to be in. But the Lakers have been bad. They've been a poor team, poor defensive team, but they're poorly constructed too.
Yes.
AD's been out. Anthony Davis has been out for a while, but he wasn't bringing it even when he was there. So it's not about that. They're just a bad mixture of guys, and Russell Westbrook has been terrible. For the Lakers. LeBron James has been in and out of the lineup. He's been playing lately, playing well, but they're as a team, as a collective, they're just not a very good basketball team. And I think they're going to have to shake up the team if they want to compete, but I think it's going to take more than the coach. This is not a coach issue.
Yeah.
This is a roster construction issue. They need different players. And so maybe they will make a trade by the trade deadline. I wonder if they have enough guts to trade Russell Westbrook. And here's the other thing. I wonder if they have any takers for Russell Westbrook.
That's the big one.
You know what I mean? But they may just have to swallow their pride and say, we thought it was going to work, but it has not worked out, and cut their losses and see if they can get Russ in a better situation with a team that maybe he can thrive with. But it's not happening with the Lakers.
No, and I question when they got Westbrook, I wondered how he would fit. I questioned if he would fit. LeBron James teams have been most successful when he has guys who can really shoot around him, because he's one of those guys. He drives down the lane, kicks out. That's his court vision is insane. So he's always seeing the guys open. The Lakers don't really have much of that going on. I think it was a mistake letting Caruso walk in the offseason. He's a piece that they could have used this year, and now they don't have him. Even blanking KCP, having him in there could have helped, a 3-and-D type guy. But yeah, man, they're just not. You talk about the Knicks not being athletic. This team is old and not athletic at all. They have a bunch of guys who are well past their prime. And I like a guy like Carmelo Anthony. He's a great story. Came back with Portland and still playing in the NBA after people gave up on him. But, Melo's never been known for defense, ever. It's been straight offense, and his game has declined. He's older. He doesn't move around as well as he used to. And even then, he was more of an ISO type player to begin with.
Right.
And that continues to be true to him. And the Lake, it's roster construction, man. You can fire the coach, you can fire the assistant, you can fire whoever, but what's on the court is what's not working. And I don't know if they're able to trade Westbrook. I don't know if anybody's going to take him. I'm not sure what his numbers are contract-wise. But they're going to have to include, I don't know if they can include picks, because they traded a bunch of first-round picks with the Anthony Davis trade and all that stuff. So I don't know if they can add picks to the Westbrook trade, who they would bring into the team, but they need to get athletic very fast and bring in some guys who can run around, create their own shots. We're talking about Cam Reddish. Maybe he would have been a great fit for LA as a potential and play with LeBron and stuff like that. But man, this team is in danger. And I think the Westbrook trade was on paper great because of what he could do, triple-double machine, but fit-wise, it's just not, it hasn't worked out.
Right. And it's not even Monday morning quarterbacking, because, we talked about it ourselves and others had talked about it as well. Like, how is this going to work when Russell Westbrook needs to have the ball in his hands? And that's not going to happen on a team that has LeBron James. So, and it just hasn't panned out. And, like you said, they're very old, still looking for guys like Trevor Ariza to give them, give them some athleticism. They're still looking for Dwight Howard to be a defensive stalwart and stuff like that. And it's like, are you kidding me? You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys are not, they're just not there, and it's a bad match, a bad mix, I should say. So in any event, we'll see what happens there. And the other story in the NBA, lastly, I think is is the Ben Simmons watch. Is 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 he going to end up finally being traded, right? Or is this game of chicken going to go on for the whole season? Look, obviously, if he doesn't get traded, then it's a wrap, right? Ben Simmons is not playing this year. But you know, let's see if he gets traded because that's been heating up a little bit. And what's been interesting about it is that there's been reports of Tobias Harris being included in a Ben Simmons trade, so that the Sixers would be looking to move both Simmons and Harris. And I think that makes it intriguing for a team looking to take on, now you got two really good players. Um, but you would have to imagine that the price tag would be mighty hefty
Yeah.
for those two guys.
You wonder what kind of player would be included in or the number of picks that would be included in a deal like that. It'll be a massive trade. Because even though Ben Simmons hasn't played all year, obviously, pretty sure he's keeping himself ready and in shape and all that stuff. So, and plus the potential of what he is there. Nobody's going to shy away from what kind of player he is. But yeah, that price tag, boy. Woof.
Yeah, it would have to be awfully high. So we'll see. NBA trade deadline. I'm not sure exactly when it is. It's the 15th of
the 10th of February, I believe.
February
if I'm not
10th.
mistaken.
Okay, so we have a little bit less than a month, 3 weeks or so before we get to the deadline. So we'll see. I'm hoping Ben Simmons does get traded. I'd like to see him back on the court as well. I think, you can't get your youth back. There's a lot of things in life you can't get back.
Yeah.
And one of them is your time. And, I hate to see a young, talented player like Ben Simmons not get an opportunity to go out there and to play and to compete. And so I want to see him back playing for someone, right? And I'm hoping he can overcome this and, maybe turn this into an inspiration for others. You know what I mean? Just of overcoming all the things that he's had to overcome. So, all right, brother, we're going to put a wrap on this one. Again, it's official. I will be catching you next week in our NFL picks because you had the audacity to pick the Rams over the Buccaneers and the Bills. Well, I can't blame you on that one, but you're picking the Bills over the Chiefs. You probably should, if your prediction of Aaron Rodgers and his 5 TDs and 49ers having 0 chance and all the rest of that, if this turns out to be a nail biter, even if the Packers win, you should lose that game. I'm going to go to the rules committee. I'm going to appeal. I want that ruling to be in place that even if the Packers win, which is your pick, but if they have to gut it out, you should lose that game.
I'm going thumbs down on that one, Jeff. Can't agree with that.
So we'll see. But it should be some great football. And hopefully next time we get together, we might be able to talk some developments in baseball negotiations. There hasn't been any since last week's meeting between MLB and the union. At least nothing publicly has been reported. So I don't know. We'll see how this goes and whether or not, we'll have spring training and opening day on time. But hopefully by the next time we get together, Rob, there'll be something to talk about on that front. And whether it's that or other things, we'll be sure to come and check it out and also to make our predictions for the NFC and AFC championship game. So a lot to look forward to, man. Have a great week, man. And, we'll get together next week and do it all over again.
Sounds like a plan, brother. Thank you.
Okay. Talk to you soon.